What is my 2023 outlook for Bitcoin, ETH, and the entire crypto market? I'm going to take you through some of the reasons why I have a positive outlook going forward. And then at the end, I'm going to share my actual predictions for 2023, but also for 2024. Let's jump right into this. All right, so first things first is technical indicators. Now, I am not an individual who deep dives into these charts and sits there all day, every day. I am familiar with them. I have used them for trading purposes before, but I think it's also important that we don't ignore all these indicators and things that are happening with the charts altogether. So I wanted to share this with you here, and this is from CoinGraph. This is the first time ever Bitcoin is printing a bullish divergence on the weekly, probably nothing. And when probably nothing is mentioned, it means it's quite something. But a divergence is, just two things going in opposite directions. That's what's happening, okay? So when it's a bullish divergence, and the two things being compared are going in opposite ways, but it's leading towards a positive outlook. And a bearish divergence is when two things are going in the opposite direction, but leading towards a negative outcome. All right, so let's kind of go through here. So 2013, 17, and 21, they're showing the peaks. And then this particular indicator at the bottom, they're showing another line graph to show how that the behavior for that indicator. So when you look at 2013, price action is moving up, right? So it's going upwards, but this indicator is actually going downwards. So that's how they're showing the line down here, all right? And so again, they're diverging. Okay, but the indicator here is showing that it's actually going into a negative direction. And so that's why this turned out to be the peak. So as this indicator was showing, the market was not going to do very well going forward. All right, so it comes all the way down. You look at 2017, the price point of Bitcoin going all the way up. So it's going upwards, right? It's positive. But this indicator was diverging. It was actually going the opposite direction and was hinting at the fact that there was some pain to come and the market wasn't going to be too favorable. So you can see the market reacted pretty much what this was indicating, not very well. 2017, price points up, going higher. So that's going upwards. But what is this indicator doing? It's going downwards. So it's giving you an idea of what's to come. And again, this one had a little bit of bump where it came back up, but then overall everything kind of collapsed underneath it. So where are we right now? We're at a point where the price point is actually going downwards, but this indicator here is actually going upwards. And this is on a weekly time frame. So it gives a better idea versus a shorter time frame. So that's where we are right now, is that price point here, this indicator is going upwards. So they're diverging, they're going in opposite directions. But this indicator is showing that there is room for optimism going forward. And so the technical indicator is actually going to show towards a positive movement going forward. What's number two? Number two has to do with the Bitcoin cycle. Now, these Bitcoin cycles happen relatively in 4-year cycles. That's 1,275 days, but it's actually more to do with how many blocks are mined on the Bitcoin protocol. And that takes about 210,000 blocks to be mined in order for the 4-year cycle to take place. So that's why you're going to get a different number for these cycles here. All right, so you look at 2009 to the end of 2011, 2012 to the end of 2015 is about 1,290 days. 2016 to 2019, end of it is 1,257, and then currently we're sitting here at around 1,200 days. All right, so we're in that time frame, and I actually think it may be even closer to the 1,200 to 1,300 time frame is where we're sitting. We're close. If 1,275 is kind of the ballpark, we're getting there. Okay, and so I want to go to the next point here, which is still part of the Bitcoin cycle, is that we're looking at peak to trough. So if I were to go back here to you, and you would see that within this time frame, there is a cycle of how long it gets up and then down. Okay. So same thing here. So right now we're sitting at about 1 year from the peak to the bottom. We're down about 77%, close to 80% now. And so the time frame it takes from peak to trough is also something to consider. We are part of this 1,275 day cycle. We've already done almost a year, if not more, getting from top to bottom. And so these are all kind of pointing signs to we're getting close to the bottom. We're getting close to the bottom. And I want to put this in here. This is not something I put in the slides. But we've gone through so many things from this peak to this bottom. So it isn't like this is a regular cycle where, you know, everything's going fine, but Bitcoin is just trending downwards. We've had the 3 arrows, we've had the Celsius, we've had the Luna crash, we've had FTX, who ended up being responsible for all the previous issues. So many things are happening, and Bitcoin is, you know, it hit in the 15s, but sitting right now around 16,005. It's holding pretty strong. So for me, number 3 here is stock market rally. All right, now that doesn't mean that things can't go lower or can't go up a little bit and then bounce back down. They have this whole notion of Santa Claus rally. So that's around, you know, Christmas time or end of the December, end of the year, where things have a little bit of a pump and then things kind of compress down. Because we've been so heavily compressed throughout the year. I mentioned Bitcoin cycle, the peak to trough being a year. You know, that's been in line with the stock market. That's they've kind of correlated together, right? And Bitcoin being treated as a tech stock. Right or wrong, that's what's happening right now. And so this prolonged time period going downwards, you know, I do see an uptick coming in 2023. Will that be in the beginning of the year? Yeah, probably more mid to end of the year is where I see it. And in that case, when that's happening, I do see Bitcoin then starting to move upwards and quite quickly. So number 4 is I think that there will be at least one big player. Now Facebook is here, they're part of the FANG group, but you know, FANG being Facebook or Meta as they're called now. I guess it's called Mang now. Meta, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Okay, so they're part of that big group, and then I've included Walmart in here as well, because they've spoken about how cryptocurrency payments and metaverse are big areas that they want to be in. They've already entered the Roblox metaverse, and they're talking about crypto payments and the railways to make those payments happen as extremely important going forward. So I do think we are going to get at least one big player that's announcing something to do specifically with the crypto space. Whether that's payment, whether that's metaverse, some sort of connection in there that's not indirect or peripheral, I think it's going to be a mainstay for them. And so that's going to really rock the markets in a positive direction in 2023. All right, so let's get to predictions, because that's what we all want to hear, right? So where do I think it's going to be at the end of December of 2023? I think, with having all that I've outlined, that Bitcoin will hit $50,000 by the end of 2023. I do think ETH will be at least 4,000. We've crossed 4,000 by the end of 2023. Okay, that's what I think. But 2024, I mentioned the Bitcoin halving. I mentioned things usually ramp up after that. Where do I think things are going to go at that point? So I definitely think that we will cross the $100,000 mark by December 31st, 2024. I actually think it's almost a slam dunk, if anything is. If we were in November 21st or November 8th, somewhere in that range, 2021, and we had hit almost 70,000, with all the progress that's been made in this time frame, I definitely think that 100,000 is easy to hit by the end of 2024. Easy. And I think ETH will hit at least $10,000 by the end of 2024. Okay, so that's my outlook on 2023 and my price predictions for 2024. There are much more bullish cases I make. I will say this one thing. There is one thing that can kind of derail everything, at least in the short term, definitely not long term, is what or how heavy the US crypto regulations will be. How heavy-handed are they? Expect a heavy hand in the beginning, and then things become a little bit more normal as time goes on in terms of ease and actual, you know, common sense when it comes to regulation. So that's the one thing that's kind of the variable in here when that happens. It's not an if, it's a when. So that I'm going to throw out there, but I think these are good indications of what's going to come forward, and I'm excited to see what the price points are going to be for one, but beyond that, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in this space 2023, 2024 and beyond.